What do you get when you mix a cast with 2 Oscar winners, 4 other actors who were nominated for an Oscar, a 2-time Tony Award nominee, multiple Primetime Emmy Award nominees and winners, a reluctant spy, and a non-governmental spy agency with a not-so-strong spy movie screenplay? You'll find out if you watch the movie The Union, which is streaming right now on Netflix at the time of this recording. All right, so take a listen to us now, and we'll give you our thoughts. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
From our podcast, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies, and our website, spymovienavigator.com, the premier go-to resources for spy movie fans. All right, The Union is a movie we've been anticipating for a few years now. We talked about it in numerous spy movie news episodes as a coming spy movie, in part due to its phenomenal cast. At the time, the working title was Our Man from Jersey. So, what's the movie about? The Union's a movie about a construction worker, Mike McKenna, played by twice Oscar-nominated and 8-time Primetime Emmy Award-nominated actor Mark Wahlberg, who was brought into the spy world by a former girlfriend, Roxanne Hall, played by Oscar winner Halle Berry.
Okay, now this premise sounded really, really familiar to me. I mean, that's because the beginning of this movie reminded me a lot of last year's romantic comedy Ghosted with Chris Evans and Ana de Armas.
Yeah.
Now, although it's not identical or even really close to identical, the basic premise kind of was there for me. And so what happened to Mark McKenna in the first part of The Union, I felt like I had seen before. So as I'm watching The Union, my mind is just going back to what the hell movie was that? Because I couldn't remember Ghosted. And I spent like the first bit of the movie trying to remember what it was. So much so that I had to restart The Union because I hadn't been paying attention. I was trying to figure out what that movie was. So if you get into that condition and you watched Ghosted and you say, this kind of feels really familiar, it's Ghosted.
Well, the Union's going to be doing this throughout the movie to us. So
now again, it's not identical. There's some fairly significant differences. But the general premise of what happens here kind of is in both.
All right, back to The Union. This is yet another spy movie that Netflix has released, showing their prowess in delivering spy movies. Although, like this one, not all of them are excellent. In our introduction, we pointed out the award-winning talent in this cast. We were hammering on the fact that this is such a high-quality cast for a reason, because you expect great things. So our question is, how does such a decorated cast deliver such a meh movie?
That's a good word for it, meh.
We're putting it on the writing of the screenplay.
All right. Although we're going to talk about the movie, we'll try to keep the big spoilers out of this discussion. Since it's only been streaming for 2 months, it's a little new to give you the big plot twists. No, there are some. And we'll give you some hints as to there's some things tied to another movie or something, but we'll try not to give it away. So we will talk about the parts of the movie that we can without blowing for you. And there's really one really big plot twist. And you could see it coming from about 7 miles away.
Yeah, The Union is heavily influenced by earlier spy movies. And you know that we like to point that out in our podcast episodes. So we're going to point some out here. Let's go back to all of this. Well, the first influence starts with the main organization, The Union. Yes, we get this before we get to the part with Mike's intro to the movie. The Union is another non-governmental spy organization that we've seen in too many spy movies to count already. Think The Kingsman or Statesman from the Kingsman series, Citadel, the series of that name, and many more.
Well, like Mission Impossible, you know.
I mean, okay. So right off the bat, you're thinking, okay, this is not so creative. The Union exists as a proxy for government spy agencies to do the dirty work that the government agencies can't do. Oh my gosh. All right, not a novel concept. Is the Union just an impossible mission then? Pun intended. Pun intended.
Or at least thank goodness it was.
The next influence we see is a very tired trope. The Union needs to protect a list of agents Oh my
no, where have we
gosh.
heard that before?
Not list anyone for Mission Impossible 1 or about 20 other spy movies. All right, this was not very original. And heck, even Skyfall had this trope in it. So, wow.
So the movie starts with a decent pre-title sequence with the first caper, which is supposed to be in Trieste, Italy. And the result of that caper led very nicely into the rest of the movie. And that was really good. And I love the fact that they did it in Trieste, because I was just there last year. It's not a very big town, but it's a cruise port.
Yeah.
It's a nice town, small city, great town to walk around in. The people are great. And shockingly, the Italian food is good.
Yeah. Hey, the pre-title sequence was good. I actually liked it, and I thought, okay, it's going to be a pretty good movie.
I agree with you there.
I felt it was shot similar to almost any Jason Statham movie you've seen, though.
Well, I think that's part though, Dan, because there's a guy that kind of looks like him.
Yeah, absolutely. So familiar, and it gave you yes, this is going to be an action spy movie type of feeling, and that was good though. I like that. Yeah. Now they build this as an action comedy, so you're going to get action, and the pre-title sequence was good. There was a lot of good action there, and I like that. We'll talk about the comedy too, because it was okay. All right. So in the pre-title here, more than one Union agent is shot. More on that later in the episode, but I'll tell you one thing here. If you get queasy about people getting shot, then you're not going to like this movie, because a lot of people get shot.
A lot of people get shot. That's true.
For a comedy, an action comedy,
well,
it's not so funny.
We're going to talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah. All right.
Now, in this pre-title sequence, we're introduced to the characters of Roxanne Hall, Nick Faraday, Tom Brennan, and Cameron Foster. And we're going to talk more about these characters in a little bit. Now, we mentioned that the Union has a very strong cast. After the title, we get a short but somewhat humorous scene with Mike McKenna, Mark Wahlberg, and Dana Delaney playing Nicole Hoffman. Delaney has 5 Primetime Emmy nominations with 2 wins. She has a recurring part in the movie, but is probably only on screen for maybe 45 seconds to a minute of that total screen time.
And I really like her.
Yeah, and we like the premise of her character. And it led into a scene with a character named Gary. Now, we're not going to tell you much about this character, but this scene felt a lot like I'm watching this and I'm like, this is from 2.5 Men, right? And there was an episode called "If My Hole Could Talk." They have great episode titles in 2.5 Men, and it was like straight out of that episode of 2.5 Men. Yeah. And Gary, this character, is played by the extremely talented Alex Brightman. I mean,
you've seen him, right?
I've seen him a couple times. So we saw him in his Tony Award nominated performance as Dewey Finn in The School of Rock. He also received a Tony Award nomination for a starring role in the Broadway production of Beetlejuice. Before School of Rock, we had seen him in Matilda the Musical, again on Broadway. More on Matilda a little bit later. This guy's a huge talent, and unfortunately, his role is so small, you don't really get to see his acting and comedic chops. But kudos to the casting for getting into this movie. And like I said, we'll come back and talk a little bit about Matilda later.
Yeah, I mean, there's tons of great people in this movie. All right, next they cut to a scene with another comedic recurring cameo role in the movie with Oscar nominee and 4-time Primetime Emmy Award nominated actress Lorraine Bracco, who plays Mike's mother. Like Dana Delaney, her role is quite small here, but those two characters are in the best comedic scenes in the movie, and they're very short. The mother was fantastic. I mean, her delivery was just flawless. She had good lines.
And they deliver what, you said the best comedic. I think the 2 funniest parts of the movie are these 2 scenes. They're not uproaring, fall out of your chair laughing.
No.
But they're the best comedic scenes in the movie.
Yeah, I tell you, for an action comedy, there's more action than comedy in this movie, but these two were the best, I think. So we're about 7 minutes into this movie, and we've seen the pre-title sequence with some stars who we'll talk about in a little bit. Unfortunately, these scenes with Dana Delaney, Alex Brightman, and Lorraine Bracco don't have great writing behind them. Although, I thought actually the mother, played by Lorraine Bracco, this is Mike's mother.
Yes.
I thought her lines were actually pretty good, and I thought she delivered them extremely well. She
always does.
Yeah, I mean, she was great. So I actually thought her lines were pretty spot on and natural. They flowed naturally. Like, yeah, that's what the mother would say. Hey, he said one way, Yeah, I could see your face through your words or something like that. She said, it's like, okay, mothers know that kind of stuff. All right. Actually, the script in general is a problem for the majority of the movie, but hey,
Yeah. And
you know,
I agree with you there. And now we move away from some of the comedy and we get into some establishing shots that showing that Mike and his construction high iron buddies, they're working. And in the background, they've got Bruce Springsteen's song, The Promised Land, playing.
yeah,
So they're really trying to nail this New Jersey tie-in to Mike's character, and we get it throughout the movie. I mean, later
yeah,
in the movie, Mike is in London, and they have some really lame attempts to show the Jersey boy who had never left the tri-state area before, and that he was in a totally different world. I mean, there's even a joke about brown sauce. I mean, really?
yeah. And
In 2024, we have to make a joke about brown sauce in London? Give me a
they
break.
tie that in with Roxanne too. He says something to her too, like
Yeah.
you can take the girl out of Jersey, but
Yeah.
so they keep pounding us with that. Okay, all right,
Well,
you've
we
been in
have to
Jersey.
we do have to remember the original title of this was Our Man from Jersey.
Yeah. But I always get reminded of what Woody Allen said. He said something like, there's it wasn't rational order to the universe, but it was something like it's like there's a rational order to the universe except for parts of Jersey. So, something like that. All right, finally, we end up in a bar in New Jersey where Mike is hanging with his buddies. We learn how these guys are not making much money, and one of them just lost his job. So we learn that Mike is a blue collar construction worker from New Jersey. We're glad they switched the name from Our Man from Jersey to the Union because it seems to be a better fit. However, I think some of what you can take the man out of Jersey, but you can't take the New Jersey out of the man stuff. And the same with her. Okay, pound us with that.
And I think it might have just been because of the title change. It might have worked if the title was still Our Man from New Jersey, but they had other
Yeah,
stuff in the movie, so the Union
yeah,
actually made more
and the
sense.
and the title of the Union. I mean, I was okay. I'm okay with the title of the Union. The Union. When Brennan introduces himself, he runs the Union. He's like, I'm from local whatever. It's like, okay, you're trying to tie in the Union, local Union. It's like, okay,
Well, but it also you also had we just had Citadel, right? So that
yeah.
was this other. So the organization's more important than the people, which is you think about Mission Impossible, right? When
Yeah,
when Tom Cruise is done as Ethan Hunt, or Ethan Hunt is no longer
we'll find
the
out.
main spy,
Yeah.
what are they going to do? The organization's the important part of that.
All right, we're in the bar in Jersey, and who walks in? Roxanne Hall, and she's there with Mike and his friends. And she was a
Looking very, very nice, by the way.
yeah, that's Halle Berry, of course. She was a high school girlfriend of Mike's, and they hadn't seen each other for many, many years.
Yeah, now one
Okay,
thing really weird bothered me here in this bit, right? They start talking, and Mike had just gone to get a pitcher of beer to bring back to his buddies. You never see the buddies leave. The buddies don't have any interaction with Roxanne.
they don't get
It's
the beer either.
yeah, it's like they would have known her. So that was a weird continuity error for me.
Yeah, that was weird, and the whole concept of what she's going to be going into with him is weird too to me. Anyway, there's a nice line about Mike always imagining her, again, Halle Berry here playing Roxanne, imagining her in a bikini, which is, of course, a nice call out to when we see Jinx, played by Halle Berry, in Die Another Day. So that was kind of cute.
Yeah, and that bit in Die Another Day was an homage to Honey Rider and Doctor No.
Oh,
So
we
here
got
we
homage
get
on homage. Oh my God.
yeah we got an homage sandwich here. I mean,
No, no,
it's
homage sandwich. I like that.
it's kind of kind of has a Christopher Nolan feel to it for me.
Yeah. All right.
Now, after they're done in the bar, they get reacquainted because they hadn't seen each other for years.
Yeah.
The post pre-title sequence stuff starts.
Yeah.
We don't want to give away the rest of the movie, but we just took you through the first 15 minutes here.
Yeah.
Now, this could be a spoiler, but if you've seen the trailer, it really isn't. Suffice it to say that Mike doesn't stay in New Jersey, and he ends up working with Roxanne for the Union.
Yeah. At least in this mission, right? That's what we
Right.
know so far. So we're going to stay away from the rest of the plot mostly because there really isn't one. And
Oh, come on. They're going after the knock list.
it's a spy movie and it will feel very familiar to you, in part because there isn't a lot of originality in this script. We think the script is not very good, and clearly the worst part of the movie. Now,
Okay,
I
now
will
you're hearing
say,
this is a reoccurring thing from us here, Dan. The acting's
yeah,
good, the script isn't.
but I have to say one thing here, and I'm going to say it now because when I watched the second time, I actually liked it more than I did when I watched it the first time. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a break here. They throw a lot of stuff at you, and the first time around, you're thinking, what is going on? And there's some stuff coming up that you think, oh, what's this all about? But actually, a second watching, I actually liked it better. All right, let's talk more about the biggest bright spot of this movie, the cast. We mentioned it a million times. We're going to mention it here because, man, they need to be called out because this is a fabulous cast.
Yeah, now as we've mentioned, the two leads are Mark Wahlberg and Halle Berry, and the Union has a very strong supporting cast as well. And so let's talk about Mike first, right?
Mm.
I thought they tried to make Mike something akin to maybe Martin Riggs in Lethal Weapon,
Yeah, okay.
where the wisecracking. I don't think that Wahlberg's humor worked as well as Riggs's did. And again, I'm going to blame that on the writing. He had like almost no good lines, and it seemed like he was working hard to pull something out of this character, but really couldn't get anything out of it. And it didn't leave me with good vibrations.
Okay. That's an insider dig if I've ever heard one. Okay, good.
You caught that one. Hopefully you Marky Mark fans got that one as well.
Okay. All right, Tom, here's one for you then. What was Mike's cover name when he joined the Union?
It was Ed Weston.
Yeah, they call him Ed Weston. That's correct. Very good. Now, if you take Mike's first name and give him the last name of Weston, you have the lead character in the TV series Burn Notice, right? Michael Weston was the disavowed spy in that show. So there you go.
Wow,
I don't know if that's
you think that was an
connection or
accident? You think that was an accident, Dan?
Yeah. No. I don't think so. I don't think they did anything by accident in this movie. Maybe they should have, but I don't know. One thing about Mike's character was annoying is that almost every line of his dialogue from the post-bar scene is him asking a question. I mean,
God, that was annoying.
Yeah, it's so bad that in one review that we've read, it posited the gem. This is a great quote. You can play a drinking game for every time Mike asks a question.
And if you did that, Dan, you'd end up in the hospital with alcohol poisoning before the end of the movie.
No kidding. I mean,
and all of this said, right, we're kind of mocking this. I think Wahlberg did the best he could with the script he got. And for you Marky Mark fans, he does have his shirt off in some of this movie.
He does. All right, let's talk about the always wonderful Halle Berry. Now, she has a much better role in this spy movie than the role of Ginger, for instance, in Kingsman: The Golden Circle. But we liked her better playing Jinx in Die Another Day.
Yeah, even though I didn't like the movie, she was good. She was good.
She was good. Yeah, here it's a little odd. When they let her act in the Union, she did fine as Roxanne. But was she fabulous? It's hard to say she was fabulous.
Well, I think part of that is they had a lot of scenes of her just standing there looking at something or holding a gun at something or looking.
She looked
through
good looking at stuff, though.
Yeah, but she, there was a lot of her shots were that.
Yeah, but she had some action scenes, but were they great?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so. Part of the issue, and we don't know how to say this politely, and we know her age is, she's older now than she was in Die Another Day. How about that? I'll say it that way. When they filmed this, Barry was about the same age as Roger Moore when he played his last James Bond movie, A View to a Kill. So most of us fans thought he was a little too old for that role. So is Halle Berry in the same boat here and the same problem? Is she a little too old for this role? It's rare to find an actor of this age doing great action work. Yeah, she's younger than me and you, Tom, but
be careful how you judge. I mean, we have to look at like Jackie Chan and Jean-Claude Van Damme. They've had to pull back on some of what they could do on camera. Yeah. And they were two actors known for their fighting skills. That's what they were known for. So, of course, there is that oddity called Tom Cruise, but that's a totally different story. And supposedly he's even to the point, I mean, he's 62 now, And
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
supposedly winding down his Ethan Hunt career.
yeah. Anyway, Barry is mostly fine acting here, but some of the action scenes and the fights she was in were either filled with, oh, we can't see her face kind of action, or she looked like she was maybe struggling a little bit. For instance, there's a scene where Roxanne and Mike run up a hill. They turn around and see something very reminiscent of something that happened in Skyfall, by the way. We won't give that away, but you'll notice it when you watch the movie. She looked like she was struggling to run up that hill. I mean, to be fair, so did Mike. And Wahlberg is, I think, 5 years younger than Barry. So
Dan, you and I would have struggled going up that hill, but she just looked like she was really working.
I'd have a problem walking up that hill. But she, all right, she didn't run well either in the movie. Some people that don't look good running. Like Cary Grant did not look good running, and I think Roger Moore did not look good running. So he didn't like being shot running. She did not look good here running, but she wasn't as smooth in her action sequences as we might have expected. But I thought
Well,
she
but
was actually not so bad.
yeah, and she did have that uninspiring script to deal with.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, if you're watching the movie quickly and you're just saying, okay, boom, 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 and you're not paying attention to every little swing and you think, okay, that's not so bad. She did okay.
Dan,
So
I want to highlight something that I think you probably picked up on, and I'll see if I've got this right. She's in this scene when the big plot twist happens. She opens a door,
yeah,
right? And her face says it all as she tries to take it in. And I know you really respect
yes,
facial expressions from actors. So why don't you kind of talk a
yes,
little bit about that?
yeah. I mean that was very good acting at that point, especially like you said, her face had to do the heavy lifting here as she was standing next to this door when the twist happened. I'm not going to tell you what happened exactly here in the twist. She was very expressive in a situation where her body couldn't be very expressive. So I've talked about it a lot in the past. I love when you can see the acting in an actor's face, and it's just fantastic. And her facial expressions here, they were critical to the movie, and she pulled it off perfectly. She delivered it with that scene with her face. And I think it's one of her finest moments in this movie.
Oh, and I agree with you on that. I mean, I thought that was when she opened that door, that was a really good
Yeah.
bit of acting there from her. Unfortunately, it wasn't an original idea, but the
Yeah.
acting was good there.
Not a lot of original ideas in this movie.
Yeah. Now, even though these comments about her in action sequences, I think the fight she's in with Wahlberg and stunt performer Lucy Cork is my favorite fight in the movie.
Yeah.
Cork is a stunt performer who you've seen in Mission Impossible Rogue Nation and Fallout, Black Widow, Fast and Furious Presents,
Yeah.
Hobbs and Shaw, and many, many more. She's a
She's
Wonder
great.
Woman, very good stunt performer, good fighter as well. There's a fight with Lucy Cork that ends up in a kitchen. And first Cork has to battle Mike, and then she gets to take on Roxanne. It's
Mhm.
not a long scene, but Barry was believable in that fight. Although, again, there were some parts where her face was obscured,
Yeah.
suggesting that a stunt double was being used there. And
Yeah.
with AI facial replacement, the whole scene could have been her double. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I wish in that fight though that Mike had re-engaged to help Roxanne in the second half of the fight.
Yeah.
But
You
I
gotta
did
watch
think
it.
for this movie, I thought it was the best fight, and I liked the women agents engaging in fights, both with men and women. Fights don't
Yeah.
have to be a guy only thing, especially in an action spy movie.
Yeah, that's true. I like that sequence was good. I liked it. I thought it was one of the stronger moments of the movie. All right. We've also seen some reviews saying that there wasn't good chemistry between Roxanne and Mike. But again, I think they worked well together. They just had an unfortunate script, especially Mike's lines and stuff. So I don't see this chemistry problem. I think they had enough on-screen chemistry that was fine.
Oh, I agree with you there. I mean, there's a scene with the shipping container,
Yeah.
and I thought they did a good job of showing their chemistry throughout the movie, especially there. I mean,
Yeah, that was good.
some of it had to be a bit distant due to their past, right? It had been years since they had seen each other, and
Right.
the situations they were put in, they couldn't be all lovey-dovey. And as we mentioned in one of the spy movie news is they never kiss in this movie, and that was
Mhm.
because they
Mhm.
wanted to wait to the next movie for them to kiss if there's a next movie.
Yeah.
So we've said it before. Wahlberg and Barry are the two leads. And then we've got this very talented group of supporting actors for them. We already mentioned Dana Delaney, Lorraine Bracco, and Alex Brightman, who had very small roles.
Yeah, yeah, I remember Dana Delaney from China Beach. That was a great show. She was an army nurse in that. Colleen McMurphy for 4 seasons. She was outstanding, and she won. You mentioned earlier that some of the people had won. She won the Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actress in a drama series in '89 and '92 for that role. She was fantastic. So she's a great actor.
Yep. All right, now, and again, those were really small roles.
Yeah.
Next, we'll move to some actors that had a little bit bigger impact on the movie, and that would be J.K. Simmons as the starting point. He played Tom Brennan, who is in charge of the London branch of the Union. And for me, the Brennan character is the only one. Well, you think that Lorraine Bracco's character did, but I think Brennan's the only one for me that really got good dialogue to work with. Now, part of it was the script, but also the script had a lot of. I'm sorry?
And part of it's him.
Yeah, part of it's him.
He could deliver those kind of lines.
Yeah, I mean, they wrote it for these passive-aggressive quips.
Yeah.
And it's something he's done forever in movies, and he does it great, and even in commercials, right?
Yeah.
Now, many of you are going to know Simmons for his Oscar-winning performance as Fletcher in the movie Whiplash. He also received an Oscar nomination for his performance as William Frawley in Being the Ricardos. Many of you also may know him as J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies and the Spider-Man TV series. Will Pope in The Closer. I mean, this guy's been around doing really good work for quite a while.
Yeah.
And he hit my radar with a small but very impactful performance as the character Bob in one of my favorite non-spy movies, Up in the Air. In fact, actually, it was on last night and I watched it. Huh. His character got fired, and the scene with him and George Clooney and Anna Kendrick was fantastic. It was a guy getting fired and just how he was there, but he did have some sarcastic quips to come back with. And I really liked this scene. I loved him in it. And he's one of those actors, if I see he's in a movie, I'm thinking I'm going to probably see a decent movie.
Yeah, yeah. He is a very, very good actor, solid. But, you know, I think J.K. Simmons did a great job here, and he really was very good. But I have to say, whenever I see him, I can't get the "We Are Farmers" bum 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 out of my head.
We know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two.
We are farmers, bum 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 bum.
He did those commercials forever. There you go. Yeah, that's what I think of when I see J.K. Simmons.
Thank you.
But he was great. He was great.
Thank you for putting that earworm in my. I'm going to be thinking of that "We Are Farmers" bum 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 all day now. Thank you very much, Dan.
You're welcome. All right, what about Mike Coulter?
Oh yeah, he plays Nick Faraday, and which is it's a great role in this movie. Sometimes his dialogue wasn't great, but I thought he played this role with the intensity it requires, and it had to have some pretty intense scenes. And if you don't know the name, you may know him from his roles as David Acosta and Monroe Yorn in the TV series Evil. He also played Luke Cage in 2 TV series. And again, we just like the way Coulter plays Faraday in the Union. He does a really good job.
Yeah, intensity is a good summary for what his role is in this movie, and he did that well. Now, Alice Lee, she's another woefully underutilized character in this movie as Athena Kim. She probably is best known as the voice of Lois Lane in the My Adventures with Superman, the TV series, and as Maggie in the critically acclaimed movie All That We Love. We would have liked to have seen more of her in this movie, as Athena was totally underdeveloped, and it could have been, I think, a better role for her.
Oh yeah, I mean this was a short movie, and some of these supporting roles could have been developed more, and with what happens with her during the course of the movie, it would have been nice to have seen more of her.
Yep.
Right now, the last actor we want to call out was also underutilized here. And we're talking about Oscar-nominated actor Jackie Earle Haley. Now, he's had a very long and storied career. And usually he plays some oddball or a creepy guy, including Freddy Krueger in the remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
Now, he started out as a child actor, and I first remember him playing Kelly Leak in The Bad News Bears. And then he landed the role of Moocher in the 1979 movie Breaking Away. And being as I went to Indiana University, this movie's always a favorite for me. And him playing the character of Moocher was a great fit. It was a great hiring decision. And then he toiled around doing minor roles in some movies and TV and took a 13-year break from acting until
that's
his
amazing.
amazing performance as Ronnie J. McGorvey, Little Children. I don't know if you've seen that. It earned him an Oscar nomination. It was a comeback movie for him. He nails it. He plays creepy weird.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, Jackie Earle Haley plays the character Foreman here. We never learn his name. We all call him Foreman.
Because he was one.
Yes, and he's the type of strange character that works for the Union, and Haley, not surprisingly, plays this well. Again, he's just underutilized for the movie. Now, that might be just because I'm a big Jackie Earle Haley fan.
Yeah. Are we noticing a trend here? Great acting talent, underutilized with not a great script. It really is too bad. This movie could have worked better. But again, like I said, a second viewing, I was a little happier with it.
Okay, see, I watched it more than twice to do this.
Yeah.
But,
So the writing part, you probably, you probably love here, right, Don?
Yeah. No, in fact, I had to check to make sure it wasn't Purvis and Wade.
Yeah.
But
There
the
you
writing
go.
for this one is credited to Joe Barton and David Guggenheim.
Oh my God. Another anti-Purvis and Wade here, bash. And it's not even a Bond movie. Okay, all right. Now, you look around for the Union and you look at other reviews as well. We've come across some consistent criticisms about the movie, other than the dialogue. One of those criticisms is about the fact that this movie doesn't seem to know what it wants to be. Is it a badass action spy movie? Is it a rom-com? Is it just a straightforward comedy? They call it an action comedy. We think it tries to be all of these things, and it made a viewing a little weird. It almost actually makes you feel uneasy watching and trying to figure out what it is.
Yeah, and I think that's the script. I think a big part of that's the script, because it's like, what am I watching here?
Yeah. I mean, if you want action comedies or spy comedies, I mean, there are a lot of good ones that we've reviewed that are excellent fun, right? The Man Who Knew Too Little, Spies Like Us. There's
Austin Powers. Yeah.
Austin Powers, yeah. Good stuff.
Now, another criticism that we've seen is that the plot was predictable. Right? We've pointed out that there's a couple points where we didn't want to give things away, but we'd say, you're going to see something. When you see it, it might take you back to Skyfall. Or the big plot twist has its roots in GoldenEye, which I thought was fairly predictable what happened there. In fact, actually, I say GoldenEye, there were other movies before that, but that's the big Bond one with it. Now, the movie also seemed formulaic in now we're in the time in the movie where we have to have a car chase or a fight or something like that. It was like, okay, somebody's with a stopwatch. Okay, we're this far into the movie. It's time for that. That said, there's a car chase and there's a purple paint job on a Porsche. And that made the car stand out nicely. I don't think I'd ever seen that color purple on a Porsche before. And I thought that worked well.
This was custom, I'm sure. I mean, the paint was the highlight, really. But actually, with the car chase, it's unrealistic. It's unreal. It's like, yeah, right, that can never happen. But most car chases in spy movies are like that too. I mean, that's the way they are. I didn't mind the car chase all that much. I thought, okay, yeah, they had to have a car chase. Yes, this was the time for the car chase. And so, yeah, okay, here comes the car chase. So we knew that. But I thought the action sequence was okay. I mean, was it fantastic? No, it wasn't fantastic, but it was okay. Yeah, it was predictable, kind of boring in a way, but it was a lengthy car chase. And I thought, all in all, I would give it probably a B on the car chase. I didn't mind the car chase.
Okay, now there's something that happens in that car chase with Mike, and I'm not going to give it away because I don't know the answer to this, but I am sure what happens to Mike in that car chase has happened in another spy movie or another action movie. I just can't put my finger on it. But when you watch us, we talk about the predictability that we've seen this before. I feel like I've seen what happened to him in another movie. I just can't put my finger on it.
Yeah, it has happened in other movies. I know what you're talking about, and I could think of one other movie where it happened in one. I can say that because that'll give it away too. But
okay,
you're going to see it, and you go, oh yeah,
yeah.
Gee, one more thing we've seen in another movie. But anyway,
yeah. Now, so we've talked about the car chase. We talked about that fight in the kitchen, but there were some other action sequences. The pre-title, right? That I can't really remember all that well. I mean, and I think that says a lot.
Yeah. The kitchen fight and the pre-title were probably the best two action scenes in the movie. there was a lot of other action and jumping and leaping from balcony to balcony and all that kind of stuff. You know, we've seen all of that before. Daniel Craig's done it in Bond movies. And of course, you got stunt doubles doing all this stuff. But yeah, we've seen it all before. There were a lot more action sequences and scenes than the two that we've highlighted that were the best that we thought, the pre-title and the kitchen fight. But, you know, yeah, you look at them and you think, yeah, well, they're not noteworthy enough to remember them all. You're just like, oh, okay. Yeah, she's jumping, she's doing this, she's flipping, whatever. Yeah. Jumping into an airbag. Okay.
Yep.
All right. We also seen some criticisms about the violence and the language. Right. The movie is rated PG-13 here in the US. And you follow that guidance, yeah, okay, that's probably fine. There is a lot of violence and there is some language in this movie, but did we find it excessive? It's hard not to say that the body count is not excessive because the body count is there's a tremendous body count here. I think it rivals Pierce Brosnan in GoldenEye, who has the highest body count kill of 47 in that movie. So that's a lot of kills. And
That's a lot of kills
in this movie, The Union. The language, the language wasn't all that bad, but the violence, yeah, there's plenty.
Well, see, now I disagree with you a little bit on the violence because I look at violence as two things. One is, did you shoot a guy or blow somebody up or something like that? And is there gore associated with it? And there's not a lot of gore in this movie.
No, they're not showing gore.
Right. Yeah, there are people getting shot, but okay.
Yeah.
Somebody's on a bridge and gets shot.
Yeah.
from a distance.
I want to say something
Okay.
about, I mean, there's the body count is high, but I have to say the sound effects were tremendous. I thought the sound effects in this movie were very, very good. So
Yes.
you got to give them props for that. The sound effects of the
Yes.
bullets and the ricocheting and the bullets hitting a body. I mean, I thought those were outstanding. That was well done.
I agree with you there.
Great job by the sound department and the sound crew on The Union. Michael Fenton was the supervising sound editor, and shout out to Michael on this one and his team.
I think Rachel Tate was also there. She's probably more known for 13 Lives, and Michael had done sound on No Time to Die.
Yeah, so he's good. Anyway, speaking of shout outs, we're going to give a few shout outs to a couple of our listeners who have given us feedback on some of our episodes and our podcast in general. Bernard Abel said about our podcast in general, I think your podcast is amazing. Your podcasts about Bond are my favorites. Hey, thank you, Bernard Abels. That's the first time he's given us feedback. And Pietro Rossi gave us feedback on our episode on his James Bond, a Psychopath. And he also said that our 24 James Bond pre-title episodes, he said, these are very informative. Funny how much detail I miss when I watch the pre-titles. That's great. And then Jim Phelps giving us feedback again on who the next James Bond actor doesn't matter. He said, well done, fellas. Another great Tuesday in Spy Class. All right, thanks. We appreciate that. Love the feedback. Keep it coming.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really nice to hear that feedback.
All right.
All right, so at the end, the last thing we want to do, let's get into what we do normally, and that's more identifying influencers of this movie. It's too new a movie to be of influence in anything in the future yet. But let's go ahead and try to find some of these influencers or just some fun facts you weren't likely to catch in a single viewing, unless you're doing a podcast on it like us. I don't know why you'd watch The Union twice, to be honest with you.
Yeah, look, again, I said it earlier. I when I watched it the second time, Tom, I actually liked it more than I did when I watched it the first time. And I thought, okay, can they do a sequel to this? Yeah, they could do a sequel to this. And
they need much better writing.
Yeah. But and I know they want to do a sequel to this. I think Netflix themselves said that they'd like it to be a franchise if the first one was successful enough. And you can look, there's a couple articles on Screen Rant about this. And I think at the time of this recording today, The Union 2 is not really confirmed yet. Try to find out info from Netflix about viewership on this or any other offerings. You're not going to do it. So we can't figure out if this was a successful journey for them in putting this movie out yet. But
well, and this is a pattern with Netflix, right? You've got Red Notice, The Gray Man, you've got a bunch of them that they've put out where they want to make a series out of them, and they don't ever get around to the second and third movie. Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see what they do here. All right, let's get back to the tropes. I mean the movie. We'll start with the MacGuffin. of the Union, namely the list of all law enforcement around the world. Yeah, we mentioned it early in this podcast. And this is a very tired trope that we've been seeing for decades. The most obvious comparison would be to the knock list, of course, the Mission Impossible movie. Can we get a new MacGuffin, please? I mean, somebody think of a new MacGuffin. Jeez.
Well, they're starting to do that with AI, and I'm glad they didn't do that there because most people don't understand it enough to do it.
Yeah.
But the odd thing for me, given my computer background, was the device they had that contained the list was this really goofy, futuristic looking computer thing.
Yeah.
And that list or database or whatever, unless it had video in it, should have easily fit on a portable hard drive. Maybe not on a thumb drive, but they're terabyte SSDs now that would have
the
worked.
briefcase.
Yeah, not in that briefcase. I mean, that thing was big, hard to carry around. I mean, you could have encrypted this on a thumb drive or SSD drive. I thought the delivery of the list was too tricked up for what it was.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it was another knock list.
Really. Right. All right. We've also seen comments suggesting that the ensemble cast, with the intricate planning of the heist, and this is really mostly what it was, basically a heist movie,
right,
was probably influenced by both the Mission Impossible series as well as the Ocean series. I think the Ocean series really had influence here. Planning and coordination are hallmarks of those series. That's what they tried to do here and establish that in the heist of this knock list, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Now, another trope that we have here is I mentioned Jackie Earle Haley's character. Well, there's a nice callback to his role in his 2010 remake of A Nightmare on Elm Street. The character Cameron Foster in The Union says that Foreman looks like a janitor. And if you remember from A Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy Krueger was a janitor.
Hey, there you go.
Nice.
All right.
I love little quips like that.
Yeah. All right. Another influencer, I think, was shown in how Lorraine Bracco's character of Mike's mother talks about having to go get her nails done. This sounded like a nod to her Oscar-nominated character of Karen in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Intentional.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. So I got the last thing I want to hit here. Right? I want to talk about something that I found odd in The Union that may have actually been brilliant. Right?
Wow. All right.
So, and I mentioned Matilda earlier, right? And this is where we're going to talk about it. There's an establishing shot of London that shows the Cambridge Theatre. I mean, this is a 100-year-old theater. It's on a corner, so it's great for establishing shots. It always films well. But there's more to the theater scenes in the Union.
Okay.
The Cambridge Theatre has been running Matilda the Musical for the last 23 years. In fact, if you go to Google Maps and look up Cambridge Theatre, in the maps, it says Matilda the Musical. It doesn't say Cambridge Theatre, right? So I don't know if that shot was just an establishing shot or if this was actually a wink and a nod to Alex Brightman, who had played in the musical Matilda the Musical on Broadway. Okay. My guess it was just a coincidence. So that's why I think it was a coincidence, not really a nod to him, but maybe not. But then later in that sequence in the movie, Mike runs into a theater. Now, at first I had assumed it was the same theater, but they're performing Peter Pan the musical, not Matilda, which means it wasn't the same theater. So Peter Pan was last at the Cambridge in 1994, so that's not where they would have accidentally done this. So I think that they switched the musicals here because there's a quip from Tom Brennan when he says, "Great time to join the Lost Boys, Mike," an obvious reference to Peter Pan.
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons played Captain Hook in the 1991 revival of Peter Pan on Broadway. So that's a long way to go for what might just be a coincidence, but it does tie a very nice bow with Brennan's line. So I'm going to think this was a double callback to both Brightman and J.K. Simmons until somebody tells me otherwise.
All right. Well, I like that bow tying, and I think it's time to tie a bow around this one and say that's a wrap of our look of the Netflix spy movie, The Union. The Union is a harmless spy movie with a great cast. We just wish they had a script as good as the cast. All right. This has been Dan.
And Tom.
Of SpyMovieNavigator.com and our podcast show, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Subscribe to our show and our YouTube channel as well. Thanks for listening. We appreciate it.